All the good intentions of every founder trying to self-implement, they're good intentions, but it takes a little bit of third-party viewing to see what you're not doing so that you can fix it.
Taking some of the elements of building a scalable venture-backed business and applying that to some of the more non-scalable non-venture-backed businesses, you can actually drastically increase the value of your company when you do exit.
Exiting wrong generally happens when you don't have an exit plan.
Their exit plan is, I'm going to sell my business for $3 million and it's going to be my retirement.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm so stoked today to have Jeff with me because he is a growth and scaling junkie just like me. And Jeff, I'm going to let you tell the story. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm a principal of really a couple of different organizations. One of them we call Startup Junkie / Conductor.
Love it.
And that is what we call a funded consultancy. So we work specifically with Arkansas-based companies.
Cool.
And we have third-party sources of funding to work with them at no cost, no strings attached, doing entrepreneurial support. So we have a contract with the Arkansas Economic Development Commission, a couple of contracts there.
Okay.
The U.S. Small Business Administration, the University of Central Arkansas, City of Fayetteville, and a variety of other funding sources, all of whom have a vested interest in economic development, specifically through entrepreneurship for the state of Arkansas. So that's our Startup Junkie Conductor world.
Gotcha.
After a few years of doing that, we started having larger companies coming to us, call it $5 million to $500 million companies.
Yeah.
Basically saying we need some of the same kinds of things, but we'll pay you for it because we know we don't qualify for the funded services.
Right.
So we created Innovation Junkie as our billable consulting firm. So we do a couple of things. We really focus on helping organizations create sustained strategic growth.
Love it.
We inform that growth planning through the creation of some innovation exercises a lot of times.
Perfect.
And then while we're working with organizations to help them implement what we call our strategic growth system, we make some observations about other things going on in their companies. And we've created a framework that we call the culture of excellence and help them focus on remediating specific areas that might be standing in the way of them building that culture of excellence.
Well, I've got so many questions. You just spawned a lot of different thoughts in my head as you were going through that little spiel there. I mean, that was a lot of stuff. This is not the first time you talked about this, obviously, but one thing I want to know is, you started the conversation in talking about there's some type of structure that the state of Arkansas is funding. You said no strings attached funding, like that. Yeah. I think most people hearing this are going to be like, wait. I want no strings attached funding. What are you talking about?
Well, so they actually contract with us to be the technology commercialization center for the state of Arkansas.
Wow.
So basically they provide us funding and we provide the no strings attached coaching, consulting, mentoring, and training. So meaning that we don't take equity in their company. We don't charge them. We don't invoice them. They can come to us specifically to help them start their company, to help them grow their company, to help them raise capital for their company or what have you.
Fantastic. And then the state is then in turn funding you to provide the consulting and training and coaching, because obviously there's no government agency that's going to be able to teach this stuff.
That's exactly right. And so we use that. We have a contract with the University of Central Arkansas, who wants to do entrepreneurship in their region. The U.S. Small Business Administration has funded us for 3 different regional innovation clusters.
Wow.
And so it's kind of an unsustainable business model that we've been able to sustain for about 15 or 16 years.
And is it a 501c3 or is it just a?
No, it's not. It's actually an LLC.
Crazy,
because we're kind of a social enterprise, I guess you would say.
Right.
We are a consulting. We're a consulting and events company. But we are an LLC. Now we have a parallel organization called the Startup Junkie Foundation that is in fact a 501c3.
Right.
And it does parallel work with us, similar kinds of work, but their sources of funding are those sources that only run it through 501c3s.
Very cool. Wow. That's fascinating. That's actually really cool. And I don't think that there's too many states that are there a lot of other states that have similar programs where the government's actually funding.
There are some similar states that do that. So we do quite a bit of entrepreneurial ecosystem building in our state as well, and
Gotcha.
that's part of the contract. Is that not only are we working directly with entrepreneurs, we're trying to build an ecosystem, a support ecosystem to also drive entrepreneurship as well.
Love it.
But it's traditional economic development is generally about recruiting jobs into your state from another state or from a business, and it's very competitive. And so it's a more mature model for states to drive economic development. But more and more states are starting to invest some money in the creation and empowerment of entrepreneurs as well.
Well, I definitely agree with that, but I think that the way that your state is doing it is very creative and very smart. I just feel like too many state-run anything is generally not effective, and the fact that they're choosing to work with a group like yours that actually has experience and can actually give them the right mentorship is really awesome. That's very cool.
Well, and I agree with you. We're also investors. So we have a fund called Cadron Capital Partners, and my business partner is another Jeff named Jeff Amaran. And, he's been in and out of about 9 startups and 3 Fortune 500. I've worked for a publicly traded company and then spent a career in healthcare and actually ran global operations and mergers and acquisitions for a publicly traded company, and have invested in a number of local businesses.
I love it.
And so between that, we're not just consultants, we're operators, we're advisors, we're investors.
I love it.
We're founders ourselves.
Love it. And do you open that door to other investment groups and other funding partners who might be interested in certain niches that you're helping, or?
Sure. We do. Yeah. Our fund, we're on our 3rd fund now, and it's called Cadron Capital Partners. And we're on our 3rd fund together. And it's, we've got about, 3 dozen investors.
Cool.
And some of those are fund of funds. Some of those are individual high net worth individuals and et cetera. Most of them come from Arkansas, but not all of them.
I love it. Very cool. Very, very cool. I love what you're talking about. I love the path you've taken to do this, and very cool stuff. Now, given that you're in this scenario where you've not only built and grown your own companies, but you're also like constantly looking at people's operations and constantly looking at all these different groups and how they're running and trying to run towards growth, what are some typical challenges that you see that as people try to crawl their way out of a launch mode into kind of a consistent growth trajectory, what do you see as typical issues that you're constantly solving for them?
One of the things I see is they really don't know where to start. They don't really know the various domains that they need to work on within their business to create that sustained strategic growth. And
makes sense.
And so we have a growthdx.ai that we use to help them actually conduct a front-end assessment. Effectively, what it does is it allows the leadership team or whomever they designate in the company.
Right.
We like to suggest the leadership team because they are the foremost experts of that company. But it enables them to assess the company against about 70 different best practices spread across 7 different diagnostic domains. And that kind of informs the process to say, okay, where are our knobs and levers? Where do we really need to focus?
Yeah.
And then we help them actually not only create a strategic growth plan that's informed by that diagnostic, but we drive it down to actually helping them wrap around an execution system around it. So a lot of people can build a plan, but on the average, about 90 days in, they get distracted from their plan because of shiny objects, obstacles they didn't plan on, worldwide pandemics, or whatever else. And so having a strategic growth system that has a weekly cadence wrapped around it is the way to keep them accountable to that plan so that they can create that sustained growth. And so those are 2 solutions that we've created to actually handle the biggest challenges that we see. So not knowing where to start and not having accountability to the plan.
I am so glad you're here. And I just wanted to take a few seconds to tell you about a program that we have assembled with a lot of our podcast guests and a lot of people who are listening to the show who are feeling the same way that they do. There's a recurring theme. you'll hear a lot of these founders talk about, I couldn't have done it without my team. I couldn't have done it without a support group of peers. I couldn't have done it without having someone to talk to that understood my feeling of isolation as an operator of my business. You see, you're not alone. It is hard running a business, and it's even harder when you know you can't express all your deepest concerns and frustrations with your executive team. It makes them nervous. It gets them scared. You don't want scared people on your executive team. So where do you turn? The Captain's Council is where you turn. The Captain's Council, it is an organization that we are put together with podcast guests, as well as people who are listening who are in the same boat. You see, peers are the only ones that can give you the type of empathy, the type of advice that only a founder or operator know and understand. Go check it out at captainscouncil.com. I know you're going to love what you see there. We have put together an organizational structure that has small group settings, a global community of founders and operators, as well as monthly and quarterly in-person events. You're going to love what you see there. I can't wait for you to check it out and enjoy the rest of this episode. I 100% agree with you, but I have a question about it. So you're talking about a strategy versus a system. Talk to us about that difference, because I think a lot of people feel like, okay, we've got a strategy. We whiteboarded this thing out. We're done. Like,
yeah.
What tools are you talking about? What are you doing to hold them accountable?
So really, building out that strategic growth plan and that strategy, the mission, vision, value. So who are we, where are we going, and how are we going to get there? So that's what the plan really answers, those three things. Who are we, where are we going, and how are we going to get there?
Yeah.
And then actually building a meeting cadence around that, that actually, we don't just stop with what are our short-term goals, say, for the next 12 months. We actually move down and say, what do we have to do in the next 90 days, Q1 of this year, in order to get at least a fourth of the way down the path of our 12-month goals?
Right.
So it's a cascading strategic plan. And then we actually have those quarterly priorities. Every quarterly priority is assigned to someone, one name. And then we have a weekly meeting cadence where we're constantly looking at, where are we? So we meld the operational aspects of our business with the strategic aspects of our business.
Love it.
And every single week we're looking at both.
Fantastic. And are there tools associated with this? Like, or are they just like a cadence of like, hey, I'm going to call it, let's have a weekly call this time and let's just review the X, Y, and Z? Or are there, is it software driven? Is it just like,
now, so our strategic growth system is not software driven. It's agenda driven.
Nice.
So every single week we meet at the same day, the same time with the same participants. We start on time, we end on time.
Love it.
And we have a specific agenda that has times associated with it that takes us through the very specific aspects of the strategic growth system.
Love it.
We have experimented with everything from spreadsheets to subscription software to be able to manage the strategic growth plan. And we really leave it up to the group. What we tell them is that we're going to provide you with a strategic growth system and a set of recommendation and some tools to be able to execute it.
Yeah.
But we don't want you to execute our 100% system with 70%. We'd rather you take it, customize it for yourself. We'll take 70% of our recommendations executed 100%.
Smart
versus
advice.
100% of our recommendations executed 70%.
I think it's such a smart.
And we work with them to actually customize it.
Yeah, that's so smart. I feel like everyone kind of as they launch, they kind of grow accustomed to a certain set of things they like to use to do what they're doing. And I think if you tried to get them to change completely, it would cause a lot more friction than help.
There are some systems out there. There's the Entrepreneurial Operating System by Gino Wickman and written about in the book Traction. There's Scaling Up with Vern Harnish, which incidentally Vern and Gino are seem to be buddies because they talk about each other in their books. There's the Advantage by Patrick Lencioni. There's the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And so our system has a little bit of all of what we consider the best elements of those. And we shy away from some of the things that we think are not the best elements. But you'll see a little bit of each of those representative in our strategic growth system.
Fantastic. And for those of you listening, if you don't have an operating system, and what he's referring to as EOS is the entrepreneurial operating system, there are multiple types of operating systems out there. However, if you don't have one, Traction is an easy way to get going on something that will get you into a regular cadence. And
For
I
sure.
highly recommend it as well. It is a fantastic model, and there are great EOS implementers out there that can help you connect the dots and make it happen. Jeff, I love that you've kind of, you're not 100% on board with it. You've kind of taken the best parts and used other parts from other places. I think that's common. I think that's more common than not when people are trying to implement EOS. Would you say?
Well, the problem with EOS and scaling up and the advantage is with any system is they don't give you an alternative if something in it doesn't work for you.
That's true.
And so it's kind of, and I like Gino Wickman's work. I love Traction, but it is either Gino's way or the highway, right?
It really is.
What we do is we've implemented Traction I've implemented Traction before in a business or two. I've implemented elements of scaling up. And so we just worked over the last 4 or 5 years, built our own, but then we're very, very clear with our clients to say, look, if something in here doesn't work for you, then I will help you adapt it to a way that it does, so that I'm not just saying, hey, it's Innovation Junkie's way or the highway. Here's what our recommendation is. But if it doesn't work for you, we'll help you adapt it to where it can.
Well, and another thing to note from what you just said is, for those listening, is that, trying to implement on your own is very challenging if it's your first time building a business. If you've got somebody like a Jeff or an implementer or whoever that can kind of help guide you along that journey, it does fast track the adoption of those systems much, much faster. Would you say?
I absolutely. In fact, I had a customer tell me, the period, the last 90 days that you have spent with us, working us through the implementation of the strategic growth system, you have moved us forward further than in 90 days than we've gone in 10 years.
I love it. Love it. I think that's more common than not. And I think that all the good intentions of every founder trying to self-implement, they're good intentions, but it takes a little bit of, third-party viewing to see what you're not doing so that you can fix it and stop trying to hit your head against the wall so many times, right?
I know you do this all the time as well, Todd. And I'm sure you've seen situations where
all the time,
you're working with a client and they hit an obstacle and they just can't get over it. And so helping them navigate that obstacle, helping them break it down into its relevant parts and helping them systematically solve that particular obstacle. Sometimes it does, in fact, take that third-party view.
Love it. Love it. So as we talk about growth and we talk about scaling a business, I personally feel like there's a very different set of actions for launch than there are for growth and scaling. My guess is that in your system and in the way you execute your strategy with people, you probably talk about this a lot. What do you see as the main differences between a launch mode and maybe that growth and scaling trajectory mode?
We spend a lot of time working with entrepreneurs on the launch side to help them make sure that they've got product market fit and problem solution fit, right? Unfortunately, so many entrepreneurs come up with an idea. They fall in love with their idea. They do no validating or invalidating research of that idea. And they're so willing to mortgage their house and max out their credit cards to bring that idea to fruition. And no one will buy it because they spoke to no one.
Totally.
So we do a lot of work with entrepreneurs on the customer discovery, customer development side of the house. Around launch mode. We also do quite a bit of work on building out their launch plan, the sequential steps. When you're in scaling mode, sequentially is not as important. Doing all the steps is important, but you can run some of them concurrently, where in startup mode or launch mode, there's a sequence that one needs to be thinking about.
I love that you said that.
Then, for sure.
No, you were going to say something else there along that.
Well, and helping them think through in the startup phase who their customer is, how they're going to access their customers, and what's going to be the mechanism to actually acquire them. If you're in scale up mode, you're already acquiring customers, so we can tweak that. But in startup mode, there's just so much that starts from a blank sheet of paper, and we need to help startup founders challenge their underlying assumptions and refine those assumptions based upon data.
You're exactly right. And I love that you brought up that case of the typical founder who mortgages their house and maxes out credit cards with an idea that they haven't even gotten customer feedback on. They just know it's going to work. And yet they've got no buyers. They've got no one who's tried it. They've got no one that's done it. And what is the value? I wholeheartedly agree. And being a marketing background, I love the journey of mapping out and strategizing that client profiling step in building your business. And it is different. At the beginning in launch mode, it is very much a product market fit. Who wants this? Does anybody want this? Whereas in a growth and scaling trajectory, it's very much a matter of, okay, out of the last 100 clients we've onboarded, who are the 5 we love? Who are the 5 we hate? How do we get more of these guys and less of those guys? Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. Understanding your ideal client profile, your personas, your avatars, whatever you want to call them, critical aspect in being able, even when you're pitching to investors.
Oh, for sure.
I teach an entrepreneurial finance class at the university. And yesterday I was teaching my students, MBA students, on pitching to investors. And I said, winning pitches, even if it's to an investor, a banker, or a buyer, is predicated on having a keen understanding of who your ideal client profile is.
For sure. And even who your ideal investor profile is.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
I think a lot of startup founders have this impression that all investors are the same, and they're just out to take advantage of you, and all they want is to take a half of your profit. That's not how most investors are. How do you teach? I'm really curious now, because a lot of these people that are listeners of this show have either gotten maybe a little bit of seed funding, maybe they're a Series A, but they're really trying to figure out, how do I find the right financial partner to get me into a growth trajectory? What do you suggest there?
Yeah. Well, I always suggest that first and foremost, they need to understand, are they ready to seek an investor yet? Are they investable? Are they credible? Do they have any track record or what have you? They need to also understand that people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And an investor is actually buying equity in your business. So you're selling to them, right? And so I try to help them think about, does your funding strategy match your operating strategy? What kind of capital is best for you at this particular time? Is it equity? Is it debt? Or is it a contract for equity?
Totally.
What are some of the strings that are going to be attached with that investment? What kind of control are they going to be looking for? The other thing is that, is your investor a potentially value-added investor? Anybody can write a check.
I was just going to say, are they bringing you new clients because of relationships that they have?
Yeah. Are they bringing you new clients? Are they bringing you other investors? Are they bringing you expertise that you don't currently have? So what's the value that they're adding to your business beyond just writing a check? And then recognizing that when you take on an investor, you're taking on an equity partner, just if you take on a co-founder as an equity partner. And that's a marriage.
Yeah, it is.
And marriages are hard. And if you don't know whom you're marrying, it's even more difficult. So
love it. I think that's kind of the voodoo magic that a lot of founders don't understand, is the investor play. They don't understand that people are looking for strategic buys. They don't understand that people are looking to buy into a new channel of client that might help them in their business. I think that what you just described is perfect for people to be thinking about, that investors really are running a business. Like they are making a strategic play in their business, in you, to try to add value to their business. And if you're not going to add value to their business, they're not going to invest in you. It's not just a game about you.
And yeah, for sure. And if you think about that from a venture capital perspective, right? So on the VC side, whether they're angel investors or actual VCs, they don't make their money until there's an exit.
Right.
So you as the founder, when we talk about exit strategy, a lot of founders tend to talk in terms of their exit strategy, but they're not thinking about how they're going to actually exit their VCs or their investors with gains.
Thank you.
And
thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
No, thank you for bringing that up, because I think that exit to most, I don't know. Like I talk to a lot of business owners. I talk to a lot of people, both in person, on the show, and everywhere I go. And I have this gut feeling that I would guess less than 10%, maybe less than 5% of all small business owners really have a plan or a strategy for exit.
That's a great point. If we move away from the scalable ventures, and kind of the small business world of, mom and pop businesses or what have you, generally their exit plan is, I'm going to sell my business for $3 million and it's going to be my retirement.
Yeah.
That's generally their exit plan. And what they don't understand is that business is built so tightly woven around them the owner that if you extract them out of it, it's not worth $300,000, and they don't understand that. Right.
Right.
So taking some of the elements of building a scalable venture-backed business and applying that to some of the more non-scalable non-venture-backed businesses, you can actually drastically increase the value of your company when you do exit.
I love it. I think you're exactly right. And I think that the fear of talking about exit, I don't understand the fear of talking about exit, because I feel like exit is such a beautiful thing when it's done right, and it's such a painful thing when it's done wrong. Having done it wrong 3 or 4 times, I can tell you, those listening, exiting wrong generally happens when you don't have an exit plan. When you have an exit plan or a strategy or a place you're trying to get the business to before you walk out of it, that always works out better than when you don't have a plan and all of a sudden there's a buyer and they're like, hey, dude, market kind of sucks right now, but I love your business. I'll take it. And then you practically give it away.
I'll give you a great example. I was facilitating a leadership roundtable, and it had one group over here that was more of a non-scalable business. And then there was a software company, a product company that was very, very scalable, who had accepted venture-backed funding. Well, one of the goals of this non-scalable, by the way, the multiples on this company were revenue-based multiples. If they were to exit, were revenue-based multiples, usually about 3 or 4 times revenue. Sure. And they kept talking about wanting to build a building, and it was going to be a couple of $1 million building. And so the software guy said, "Why would you do that?" And they said, "Well, because we want a really nice building." And he said, "Well, isn't that just kind of a vanity issue?" And they said, "Well, what are you talking about?" He said, "Well, you're talking about exiting your business in about 5 years. And so if you took the $2 million that you're going to spend in a building that you might get $2,500,000 back for in 5 years, what if you spent that $2 million of just generating more clients and more revenue, where you're going to get a 3 or 4 multiple on that?"
No doubt.
And they stopped and they went, "Never really thought of that." So my point in that is that your exit strategy is not just about what you're going to do when the 5 years comes or the 3 years come or whatever, but it changes how you invest in your business and how you behave in your business on a day-to-day basis, because you're trying to build value for a period down the road.
Totally agree. No, I think it's fantastic that you bring that up. And I think that exit is kind of the lost conversation piece. Nobody starts a business thinking about their exit, just like nobody is a teenager thinking about death, right? I mean,
sure.
It's a very similar life cycle, and we don't know when the end is going to come, but the more you're planning for it, I like to think the better the outcome.
Yeah, agreed. I agree with you.
So this is fantastic. Jeff, I love this conversation, and I know that most people out there listening are loving this type of topic too, because it is a challenge to think about these types of things. Raising money, exiting a company, these are not the things people think about when they think of starting a business, but they should. And so, so what are you guys doing to kind of get that conversation started as you're nurturing these startup concepts or these scale up concepts as people are working through their issues with you?
Well, we're driving them to have conversations. It's again, back to that third party perspective, right? So when you have a third party engaged in your business, and oh, by the way, even every coach should have a coach, every consultant should have a consultant.
Great.
But when you've got that third party engaged in your business and they're asking you those tough questions, you can't just gloss over them like you can when it's just you and your leadership team. Oh,
100%.
we'll deal with that down the road. No, actually, he's asked us, how are we going to deal? What is our exit strategy? What is our go-to-market strategy? What is our ideal client? Who is our ideal client profile? What is our plan to achieve, multiples of growth over the next 3 to 5 years, et cetera? And so just really asking the tough questions is where we find ourselves. Much of our business is very Socratic in nature of asking difficult questions.
I love it. And knowing the difficult questions to ask is what gets the thoughts going. And so that, my friends, is why you need a Jeff. That's why you need a Todd. You need somebody looking at your business and saying, dude, why are you doing that? And how is that getting you to this goal that you magically have that you think you're going to get to with no strategy?
That's right. That's right.
I love it. Jeff, this has been a fun conversation. This is about where we tie things off. And I want to thank you for your time. I feel like this conversation is so relevant to everybody listening to this. And I hope it's been relevant for you and your audience, and we can add value to them as well. So thank you so much for the time. And I'm going to post links to all the different programs you're associated with right now in the show notes. Please look them up. Reach out to Jeff via LinkedIn. How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah. So there are really three ways to get a hold of me. Probably one is LinkedIn. I'm very active there. JeffStandridge.com, InnovationJunkie.com. Those are the three best ways. And Todd, I know you're doing the Lord's work as well. And so you keep doing that. And I wish all of your listeners and all of your customers the best, and be happy to interact with any of them at any time.
Amen. Thank you, brother. I appreciate your time, buddy. We'll catch up with you later.
Take care.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. We absolutely love producing these awesome episodes for you. There is no doubt that the conversations that we just had are going to benefit you if you actually listen and implement these things in your business. That's why we do this. So take a listen, and I hope you enjoy the episode. I hope you think about what is keeping you from your growth. Is likely something simple that you're just ignoring because you don't like thinking about it. Take our free Growth Readiness Assessment at growthreadiness.com. I promise that if you take that test, you're going to learn really quickly that there are things that you tend not to want to think about your business. And there's a good chance that those are the things keeping you stuck at a certain revenue level. So pay attention, take that assessment, and listen to more of these episodes, because every founder that we interview is there to help you. And I hope you find what you're looking for to help you on your growth journey from these interviews. We'll catch you later. Thanks.